You guys, this film is so good. So I was not planning to do a movie review today until last night when I happened to see this movie called The Clovehitch Killer. And I was just working, but it just so happened that the type of work I was doing at the time, I could actually work plus pay attention to what was going on. I'm on Hulu. I see this, splashy little ad thing. You know how they show the picture of the movie and give you a synopsis. And I'm like, this looks pretty interesting, like something I'd like to check out. Let me watch it. I clicked play, was not really expecting much. You guys, this film is so good. And it's just, I think because I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it is, and I was really impressed with different things about it. So I'll give you the synopsis of this. If you haven't heard it, this film came out in 2018. I don't know if it came to any theaters or if it just went straight to digital or DVD or whatever. But the synopsis is, this kid here, he's from a very religious, very strict religious family. And he starts to suspect, I think he's like, they're with the Boy Scouts too. And his father's like a scout leader or something like that. And he starts to suspect that his father is a serial killer. And so the story goes through that, like first as it starts off, he's in the car with some girl, he's like on a date or some girl he likes, and somehow she sees like a picture in the truck. It's a truck, and it's a picture of someone who is being bound up, look like they've been tortured. I believe that this story is sort of like a kind of like the BTK killer was the inspiration for this story, because I think with BTK that guy was like a chaplain or had some sort of religious type position in the community, and he was looked up to by everyone and his family never knew or something like that. But anyway, so this picture is found in the car, and the girl who finds the picture, like a classmate of his or someone who goes to the church or whatever, she obviously thinks, oh, what is wrong with this guy? And he's like, this is not mine, and so then he starts to put together that, well, this picture was in my dad's truck. And he starts to sort of dig, and he finds out stuff. He goes into the shed where his dad has locked away stuff, and he finds out things, and he starts to really, really disturb him. Along the way, he gets to know better a girl from the area. He knew who she was, but they strike up a friendship during this movie, and their connection is their interest in the Clovehitch killer, which is a serial killer, has never been found, and so they go on this investigation together. She's a bit of an outcast. This is the girl with questionable reputation, and then of course his reputation is now tarnished because the girl who found the picture in his truck tells somebody, and then that person tells other people. So now his friends, people in his Boy Scout group, start to think he's a pervert, and they kind of ostracize him. And so that's sad for him. The kid who plays in here did a really good job. If I've seen him in anything else, I don't remember what, but he was super impressive in here, you guys. I mean, he played the part so well. You could really empathize with him, feel so sorry for the situation he's going through. You can understand the conflicted feelings that he has because his father, who he very clearly loves, he's starting to become afraid of him, and he's starting to question everything that he thought he knew about himself and his family and everything. And you could see like these, emotions that he wrestles with and the decisions that he makes, and how much his father influences him. So it's just very well done. His father's played by Dermot Mulroney. I think that's his name. I know exactly who he is, but I always get him mixed up with another actor who has the same initials. They don't look a bit alike, but I always get them mixed up. Anyway, whatever. The dude with the glasses, you know him. He's played in a bunch of different stuff, American Horror Story and The Practice. Anyway, as the movie progresses and they start to find out more, it builds to this climactic moment. And when the climax of the story starts to happen, and I paused it to see, how much longer is it going to be, I saw, there was quite a bit more left to go. And I'm like, oh, wow, where is it going to go from here? Because I was just not predicting what happened at all. There was a lot of different ways that the story went, in ways that I didn't foresee. And I liked that. It wasn't that, like, sometimes you predict how a story is going to go and then it completely just veers off into extreme left field, and you're like, what the heck? That makes no sense at all. It doesn't even make any logical sense with regard to the writing or anything, and that's annoying. And then sometimes you can completely predict what's going to happen, and that gets a little bit like, dang it, I'd like to be surprised. But you want to be surprised in a good way. You don't want to be surprised in a way that makes no logical sense at all to the story and the characters or anything. And that was what happened with this on a few occasions, especially as the climax was happening. But the reason why there was such a span of time between when the climax was starting to happen and the actual end was because as it starts, then it breaks away and it kind of does a little bit of a flashbacky thing where it shows you how these characters ended up where they did at the climax. So I thought that was pretty well done. I like that because what happens is when the climax is starting, you're like, what the heck? Okay, I didn't see this one coming. And then it shows you how it happened. You're like, oh, okay, that was pretty interesting. And then at the end of the film, it's over. And it didn't even wrap up in the way that I expected it to. Like, things didn't progress the way I expected that it would have progressed. And I liked how that was handled as well. I thought that was really well done. And it's just overall, it's quite sad because you really feel very sorry for this kid and the difficult decisions that he has to make because of the things that he has come to find out about his dad and just about the people around him. It was sad to see how he was treated by some of his friends, and they wouldn't listen to him when he would try to explain himself. And I felt really sorry for this kid. He played his part very, very good. And the guy who plays his father, Dermot, I think that's how you say his name. Whatever, you guys know who I'm talking about, him. He did a really good job in his part too. He was sufficiently creepy in certain parts, and then he would be like just a normal, loving father and husband, and it was just everybody did good in here. Everybody. The guy who played the mother was Samantha Mathis, and she is not in here a ton, but the bit that she is in here, she does a great job. She is just your typical, so like, let's say, serial killers that have successfully done what they've done for years, and you find out they have a family, they got kids and nobody knew, and you think to yourself, how in the world? Well, this family, they're completely clueless, and Samantha Mathis plays the part of this uber religious mother / wife very well. I mean, she's very convincing, and everyone did a phenomenal job in here. The score, and I didn't really think about that or realize it until today when I was contemplating whether I would do this review or just thinking about what I would say if I did the review. Something that I noticed, if memory serves me correctly, but there were probably some moments where there was some sound, like some score in the background, and you know how that really sets the mood. But there were also several times there were at least a few times when something pretty like tense was happening. Like the scene where you see the guy standing over the girl that's laying on the couch and he's got the mask on. Scenes like that. And then the climactic scene. From what I recall, there was no suspenseful type music written into the scene, no suspenseful score or anything like that to sort of guide your emotions along and make you feel what you're supposed to be feeling. You didn't need that at all, for one thing, because you're like really like, oh, you know, it's creepy when there's no score sometimes. And I feel like that was really a good idea to do that, because you didn't need the music to make you feel creeped out like crazy in some of these scenes. It was just like you just watching, it's like, oh my gosh. And it just makes you feel like, oh man, you know, and the turmoil that you know the characters must be feeling at the time that these scenes are carried out. And it's just, it was really good. I was very glad. I've said that already. As you can tell, I really like this movie. I am glad I found this thing. I saw it on Hulu. I think it's available in different places to buy, like Amazon Prime, like to rent or to buy. I think also Vudu, maybe Google Movies or something like that, you know, Google Play or Google, whatever they got, you know, there's different areas where it can be found. So if you have Hulu, it's there. I don't know how long it's going to be there, but it's there for right now and in various locations. Not on Netflix from what I can tell, which is kind of disappointing, because I think this would be a great addition to the Netflix library. This would actually be a great addition to the Shudder library, because it's a horror movie, but it's more of a psychological horror because of what this kid is going through during the course of this film. And yeah, it's just it's like this little gem I found. It was like hidden, and then there it was. Never even heard of it at all until yesterday. So I was like, okay, wow. And when it was done, I was super, super impressed. So I wanted to share it with you guys. If you haven't heard about it yet, if you're able to check it out, maybe you won't like it as much as I did, but I think one thing that really impressed me was the writing, because it didn't go anywhere stupid like I thought it would go. Now, some people have complained about far-fetched stuff that happens, but to me, it seemed pretty solid. Maybe if I watched it again, I would find plot holes. I think the score on Rotten Tomatoes was like mid 70s, but the audience score, and this was the official critics, the audience score was actually about 10 points less than that, which in this case, I don't agree with the audience. I think that the score that it has on Rotten Tomatoes is a pretty solid representation of how I felt about it. And I think that you guys should check it out if you're able to, if you like this kind of thing. Obviously, not everybody likes this sort of, you know, movie, but it's not overly graphic as far as things like violence, or it's not, you know what, it almost felt to me, some of the way the scenes, like when a scene would happen, you know, it almost felt like it might have been a made-for-TV movie, because you know how a scene will happen and it'll be like, and then it kind of like blacks out for the commercial. It did that a few times, and I remember thinking, it's coming to me now, but I remember thinking at the time, I wonder if this was a movie that was made for TV. So maybe it wasn't, but maybe it was, and it's not overly graphic or gratuitous with violence and stuff like that. So, you know, if you're squeamish and you don't want to watch a good story because of what it might show, that you think it's going to bother you, this won't. I mean, things are going to bother you just because of the subject matter, but not necessarily because of what you're seeing. But if you're worried about the visual aspect, there's really not so much of that to be concerned about. So, you know, check it out. Just, I don't know, as you know, whether you like this genre or not, you might would still like a story like this, because it's, you know, things like this have happened as far as serial killers being able to live undetected for so long, and it's freaking scary how well they can blend in with society and with people around them. Very scary. So anyway, okay, I can't think of anything else to add. If I continue to talk, I'll be just doing a bunch of ums and ahs and and you know and whatever. And I don't want to do that because I already do that enough. So, okay, I'm wrapping this one up. Later, guys.